It is exactly 9 o'clock East African time, Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Good evening and a very warm welcome to the Daily Report on this second day of December 2024. By the way, a happy month to you and your family from wherever you're watching us. My name is George Maringa. On sign language interpretation tonight is Kelvin Makori. We have a jam-packed bulletin for you. It is Monday and tonight we will have two conversations. My two sets of guests are already in the building. We've got the CEO of the Bidco Group, that is Vimal Shah. He is KEPSA advisor and chairman of Bidco Africa Group, that is the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. The topic of discussion tonight is the private sector 20 years on. Remember, this is a very crucial docket, a very crucial industry that plays a very key part in this economy of the country, especially on matters 2024 and beyond. We shall be looking where we've come from, where we are, and where we want to be as a country. That conversation with Mr. Vimal Shah will be coming your way shortly. And also later tonight, we look at matters politics. My two guests, you will want to listen to them because it's matters of the mountain tonight. I'm talking about none other than Gigi Kagombe, Member of Parliament for Gatundu South, and Kimani Ngunjiri, former Member of Parliament for Bahati. You want to stand by for that political conversation as well? Please do engage us on our socials. You can find us at TV47 News KE. I am at George Maringa _ at TV47 News on Facebook. We thank you for joining us on terrestrial platforms as well as on YouTube. Please go ahead and chime your feedback. By the way, our live chat on YouTube is open. So go ahead, just be quite respectful. Of course, observe the community guidelines, but of course, go ahead and chime in your feedback as well. We thank you for joining us. We've got a lot lined up for you tonight. But first, here's what is making headlines tonight. Tonight, services at the Kenyatta University Teaching, Research and Referral Hospital paralyzed as medics and other support staff down their tools to protest working conditions at the Level 6 facility. Also tonight, police are still probing the murder of a KMTC student in Kitale, Trans Nzoia County.
Na katika ile hali Ben alipoingia kwenye nyumba, ule msichana alimconfront na kisu.
The suspect, who is alleged to be his lover, is still at large. Plus, President Ruto says he will kick out tribal leaders.
Wale wanataka kuturudisha katika siasa ya chuki. Wale wanataka kuturudisha siasa ya ukabila. Sisi tunataka tuwaambie Kenya hii imesonga mbele. Kenya hii tunataka umoja.
As he urges Kenyans to register for Social Health Authority SHA. And NARC Kenya's Martha Karua and other lawyers have been locked out of courtroom in the case facing Ugandan opposition leader Kizza Besigye in Uganda. Thank you for choosing TV47 to inform you. Kelvin Makori is on sign language interpretation tonight. I am George Maringa. Let's get the show on the road, even as you stand by for those two important conversations tonight. Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union and the Kenya National Union of Nurses at Kenyatta University Teaching, Research and Referral Hospital KUTRRH paralyzed healthcare services at the Level 6 facility for the better part of the day. The staff were complaining of poor working conditions, among other issues. Anastasia Mukabi opens our broadcast tonight with that report.
Healthcare workers at the Kenyatta University Teaching, Research and Referral Hospital marched in the facility, demanding for a good working condition at the Level 6 hospital.
Our bare minimum is reinstatement of our medical cover. The bare minimum, our reinstatement of our medical cover within 24 hours. Secondly, disbandment of the board within 24 hours. Thirdly, reinstatement of our CEO, Abdi Dagane.
Kwa hivyo shida ya hapa KU ama hospitali ya KU inaongozwa na lile baraza ambalo linaamua maamuzi ya vile hospitali itakavyoendezwa ama endeleshwa.
Led by representatives from the Doctors Union KMPDU and the Nurses Union KNUN, the workers called on the Ministry of Health and the KU Hospital Management to address their grievances.
We urgently call on the Cabinet Secretary for Health to intervene and save this esteemed institution from a board that seems focused on self-enrichment at the expense of employees and patient care.
And we say, if the three demands are not met, within 24 hours, it will be a total paralysis of the hospital services.
Patients were left in pain and in agony following this abrupt industrial action.
Saa 11 tulikuwa hapa tukitarajia ya kwamba mama yetu atachukuliwa kwa ajili kemo yake ni lazima alazwe kwa siku 4.
Ningeomba hii bondo ambao wanapigana pande zote mbili wakae chini wasikizane, kwa sababu wakati wanapigana nyasi ndio huumia.
In an attempt to address this crisis, the hospital's acting CEO, Isaac Kamau, encountered resistance from the medics who called for his immediate vacation from the office. Anastasia Nkabi, TV47 Nairobi.
Thank you, Anastasia. Let's take you to Uganda, where lawyers defending Uganda's opposition leader Kizza Besigye, led by Martha Karua, were denied audience by Uganda's Martial Court. Karua citing delays in the issuance of special license from the Uganda Law Council. Speaking to Uganda's local press, Karua explained that via phone she had engaged the council, which promised to urgently address the matter with a response expected tomorrow.
Monday, Kenya Party leader Martha Karua was leading a battery of lawyers to mount a defense against Uganda's opposition figure Kizza Besigye, allegedly abducted in Nairobi on November 16th after attending Karua's book launch. However, Karua, among other lawyers, were denied an audience by Uganda's General Martial Court, where Besigye is facing charges of being in possession of firearms and ammunition. The court cited that a section of Besigye's defense lawyers had not been cleared by being issued a temporary practicing license.
When we appeared here, our team was not properly constituted in circumstances where the lead counsel had no audience before this court.
According to Karua, her team has already raised the matter with Uganda Law Council, the council promising to deal with the issue, and her team should get an update by Tuesday. Besigye's case, which was before the court, was however adjourned until December 10th after defense lawyers requested the adjournment to allow him to process the temporary practicing license for lead lawyer Martha Karua.
I applied last week. I was informed that they do not process digital applications, so my physical application was brought on Wednesday.
Earlier, Karua raised concerns into the circumstances of Besigye's arrest within Kenya's territory and taken to Uganda, where he was charged with 4 counts, including seeking military support to destabilize Uganda's military force.
I have looked at the charge sheet. The offenses are alleged to have been committed in Kenya, Greece, and Switzerland. Unless if Uganda has annexed Kenya, and we do not know, Ugandan authorities have no jurisdiction whatsoever on anything committed on Kenyan soil. That is, if at all any offense was committed.
Prime Cabinet Secretary, who doubles up as Foreign Affairs Minister, Musalia Mudavadi, previously, while commenting on the matter, reluctantly detailed Besigye's alleged abduction and later arrest will be resolved diplomatically, describing Uganda as Kenya's strong partner. Moige William, TV47.
Thank you, Moige, for that. 5 people have died after a wall collapsed at Mombasa Miritini area this evening. The 5 include a 6-year-old child and 2 pregnant women who were sheltering from heavy rains in Miritini area of Jomvu. Locals say it is not the first time the wall, which belongs to a factory, collapsed, pointing that a few people were injured in a similar incident a few weeks ago. For now, they want the remaining part of the wall brought down to avoid such occurrences in future.
Mvua ikazidi. Kuzidi ndo tayari ukuta watu wakawa wameenda kujiziba hiyo mvua kwenye ule ukuta. Ndo ukuta tayari na ukashuka wote tayari hapo.
Mtoto amvunjika mkono mara 3 na huyo mama amvunjika sehemu za kiuno huku chini na kichwa, na kuna mvulana pia na huyo jamaa mwingine amvunjika kabisa huku kwa kiuno nyuma.
Kama za kuhesabu ama miezi ya kuhesabu, hii ukuta hapa ndani iliumiza watu. Nadhani kuna watu mpaka saa hii wako hali mbaya, wako ICU. Kuna watu wamevunjika spinal cord, wengine wamevunjika meno, na mpaka saa hii county walikuja hapo waka access. Kwa nini wasenge access kuta yote nzima yote hii?
La pili, nafikiri hii ni onyo kwa wale wote wenye wanaofanya ujenzi kama hizi bila kupata taratibu. Maana tunavyoona hapa ni kuna sehemu ziliongezwa tu juu. Iliongezwa juu, sehemu zingine ni refu kushinda sehemu zingine, na labda hii ndio imechangia ukuta ikawa ni haiwezi kustamili.
Police officers in Kwanza in Trans Nzoia are probing the murder of a KMTC student who was allegedly killed by his girlfriend. The suspect is currently at large, as Isaac Famba now reports.
It is a somber mood at the Cherengani hospital during a post-mortem exercise after Benedict Kipto's body was brought here following alleged murder by his lover. According to a friend, the last journey in preparation for his graduation ceremony was to happen on Thursday this week was interrupted after he was brutally murdered in what is alleged to be a romantic argument.
Ben alitoka job, as usual anafanyanga hustle yake pale town, na akakuja nyumbani after daily activity kama kawaida, lakini ilipofika nyumbani alikaribishwa na ile hali alikaribishwa nayo haikuwa nzuri. Kulikuwa na sitofahamu kati yeye na yule mpenziwe, na katika ile hali Ben alipoingia kwenye nyumba, ule msichana alimconfront na kisu, na in that process Ben akajaribu kujidefend, that is akajaribu kutoka mbio as in atoke nje at least akoe maisha yake, lakini in the process akienda kujitoa msichana kama overpower. In the process kwa ameshika mlango, msichana kama overpower, and that's when msichana alikuwa na kisu na akaweza kustab Ben on the chest, on the left side of the chest.
It is a situation that has left the deceased mother Gladys Kipkorir with an unanswered question due to on how her son was brutally killed a few days to his graduation.
While we were top-notch in preparation for his graduation on 5th, which is this coming Thursday, I was just called when I was on duty on duty that I was required to be in hospital, Cherangani hospital, as soon as possible, very early in the morning. I tried to ask what was happening. I was told that Kipto had been injured very badly. It was so bad, I didn't comprehend what it was, but later on I was told that he was injured. He was stabbed by her friend, his friend. So I had to come with my family members to come and find out what it was. And for real, we found my son had been stabbed on the chest and he was no more.
Police department in the county have now been asked to speed up the probe in the murder.
Mtoto amejikaza kabisa, mzazi amejikaza. Mtoto sasa ndio yeye anaenda na uwawa, na yeye ni mtoto kijana na ameuawa na mtoto wa kisichana. Mara mingi tumekuwa tukililia sana watoto wa kisichana. Hata sisi pia tunalilia watoto wetu wa kiume. Hata hao pia wanadhulumiwa. Ninaomba tu serikali tusaidie kabisa Kipto apate haki yake, na sisi pia tutulie roho zetu.
Trans Nzoia County Deputy Police Commander Celestia Mreida said that the suspect is still at large. Isaac Famba, TV47, Trans Nzoia County.
Thank you, Isaac Famba, for that. The Ministry of Education has ordered the closure of boarding school sections in at least 348 primary schools across the country. In a circular dated November 27th, Education Principal Secretary Bello Kipsang said that some institutions grossly contravened the provisions of the Safety Standard Manual for schools in Kenya. Among those ordered to close their boarding sections are 49 schools in Nairobi, 26 in Kericho, 19 in Uasin Gishu, 18 in Tharaka Nithi, 16 in Kisii, 13 in Kiambu, 11 in Meru, and 10 in Garissa County. Indeed, let's take a look at other stories making headlines today, where Savannah Clinker chairman Benson Ndeta was this morning released unconditionally by a Nairobi court after it was informed that a High Court injunction had been issued to halt the businessman's prosecution and detention. After Ndeta spent the weekend in custody, Magistrate Gilbert Shikwe postponed the bail decision and directed that the case be heard on January 30th, 2025. Ndeta was on Friday charged with defrauding Absa Bank 4.5 billion shillings, purporting to act on behalf of Savannah Cement Limited. The matter before the High Court will be mentioned on January 21st for further directions.
Release Mr. Benson Ndeta immediately so that we can all be in compliance with the High Court order. That's all, Your Honor.
No issues. Okay. So we'll get a mention. That's a mention to get an update on what has transpired in the Superior Court. So we're down tools for now.
Kenya is poised to redefine healthcare with new regulations under the Digital Health Act 2023. The Ministry of Health has introduced groundbreaking measures to integrate technology into healthcare delivery. These efforts aim to enhance data security, expand healthcare access to undeserved regions, and empower citizens with better control over their medical records. Ann Odida with that report.
The Ministry of Health has unveiled a series of proposed regulations under the Digital Health Act 2023, marking a step towards transforming the healthcare system through technology. These measures aim to establish a secure, inclusive and efficient digital health ecosystem.
And we are working with through the DHA and other agencies to ensure that that data that we host is safe and protected in a secure environment. So that as we continue to offer services, then the data quality is not compromised.
The regulations focuses on three key areas, including secure data exchange, certification of e-health technologies, and comprehensive health information management, with a focus to expand services to underserved areas and empower citizens to access their medical records securely.
We will be able to track our health products and technologies, ensure that the first products move out fast. We will no longer be talking of expired commodities because They will all be visible at the touch of a button.
The regulations will ensure safe health data handling guided by the Kenya Health Data Governance Framework. Certified e-health applications such as telemedicine are expected to bridge gaps in healthcare delivery and address disparities. The Digital Health Agency will oversee certification and data security with strict penalties for non-compliance. The ministry intends to hold public consultations to refine these regulations further through collaboration with county governments, the private sector and other key stakeholders. Kenya aims to establish itself as a leader in digital health across Africa, leveraging technology to enhance healthcare access, quality and affordability. Ann Odida, TV47.
Thank you, Odida, for that. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has today praised the great steps that Kenya has made in embracing good diplomatic relations and also being a hub for many international organizations, hence creating a good space for many services. Speaking during the celebrations of Kenya's 60 years of diplomacy in Nairobi today, Mudavadi, who is also the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, lauded the growth of democracy in Kenya. He, at the same time, sought support for Raila's AUC chairmanship bid, stating that the former Prime Minister has all it takes to take Africa to the next level by offering good leadership.
With successive leadership demonstrating diplomatic wisdom by carefully balancing our national interests with prevailing geopolitical realities and our responsibilities as a member of the international community. Reflecting on our diplomatic journey, from the humble beginnings in 1963, when Kenya had only 6 missions abroad, today we have 70 missions worldwide. A significant expansion that reflects our growing influence and the strategic importance of international engagements. Similarly, we have achieved tremendous milestones since the time we served as a logistical hub during World War II to today becoming a core state in the region. Nairobi is today home to the United Nations office at Nairobi Union, and we are happy we have the top leadership here, which is the 3rd largest UN Secretariat duty station after New York and Geneva. It serves as the only headquarters in Africa and the Global South. As the African Union candidates' public debate, dubbed Mujadala Africaneers, having been scheduled for 13th December 2024, at the AU headquarters, we wish the Honorable Raila the very best. We have no doubt that his Pan-African credentials and leadership experience will immensely contribute to the continent's shared prosperity and champion the causes of peace, unity, and development across Africa and beyond.
That was indeed Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi and CS for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. Let's now make sense of the sense. The government is still open to investors for the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA, saying the flanked Adani deal has not deterred efforts to expand the country's largest airport. Roads and Transport Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir, for now, cargo demand is barely being met by the current services providers available, and there will be changes to have a central cargo station for mobilization and control.
There's a 1,050-ton cargo movement deficit at the largest airport in Kenya, JKIA, a demand that hasn't been met due to a myriad of issues, largest being a shortfall of possible players in the sector.
Very recently, we were having a lot of challenges when it comes to the issues of having all the flowers out of Kenya here. This is a constrained market where we need a lot of freighters.
We're welcoming more of this kind of freighters In fact, we need 10 times. We need the frequency of challenge coming twice a week, similar flights to do 20 times a week to be able to offtake the 1,500 tons per week, which is the current undercapacity we have in the region to be able to export all our flowers.
Possible revenue accrual from the missed opportunity ranges in the millions. Now local players are inching into this niche business.
Most of the carriers had pulled out of Nairobi because of most lucrative routes. That is Asia, the Far East, and the Europe and the Americas. Because those routes, they go up to $10 per kilo. While here in Kenya and most African countries, we are charging as low as $2.5, $2, up to $3.
While welcoming Challenge Airlines' inaugural flight into the country, the Cabinet Secretary hinted at possible consolidation of cargo services as the country woos possible airlines to take up the increasing market deficit.
And that is important for us because this is a chain reaction. Once the farmer has produced their avocado, their flowers should get to the market fresh so that we can also, the farmers can benefit. So as KIA, we're going to be working very closely with any other airline that wants to airlift from here.
The inaugural flight of this for cargo is very, very exciting to us, and we'll go a long way in supporting it. And going forward, we are also going to address the infrastructure constraints in this facility.
And while the country comes closer to the end of the year, demand for Kenyan horticultural goods, which makes up a majority of exports in the country, also increases. The government is now raising alarm over the possibility of compromised quality as exporters scramble for available air cargo airlines.
That's with 2 flights a week, and this is purely cargo flights. So it's a 767 coming in twice a week. That in itself is an additional capacity over and above what we already have in this market.
This as more Kenyan companies venture into expanding routes into the aviation sector. The search is still on for a possible investor for the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport as the government now poses a challenge for Challenge and other possible airlines on the possible benefits of having new players in the market. Hibak Said for TV47 from JKIA.
Thank you, Hibak. Ahead of the German African Business Summit that is scheduled to kick off tomorrow in Nairobi, the German Vice-Chancellor and Minister for Economic Affairs, Robert Habeck, who is in the country today, toured Olkaria geothermal power fields in Naivasha in assessment to German government-funded power projects. Habeck lauded Kenya's move steering Africa in green energy, a continent that has great potential in generation of clean energy, despite leading in carbon emissions. On his part, Kenyan Managing Director and CEO Peter Njenga said there is hope that in the future, Kenya will rely on 100% geothermal power base load precipitated by demand in the next 10 years.
It's encouraging to see what Kenya is doing, has done in the past, and the plans for the future are even more encouraging. I really appreciate Kenya's leadership also on the African continent, trying to achieve or willing to achieve 100% renewable green energy in 2030 is outstanding. Also in Africa, the potential for a lot of African countries, many African countries is there, and we see here in my back how geothermal energy is used to produce electricity. The sun is shining, the potential for off-grid sites in the rural areas is great. So it's really interesting to see, and it's great to see how Kenya is moving forward.
We are looking at the next 10 years in our strategy and looking at the demand and supply of power in this country. We believe we can be able to add another 1,500 megawatts. That will comprise about 840 megawatts from geothermal, about 140 from hydro, and the balance will come from wind and solar. Within the 10-year period, the demand is going to go up, and we want to support the government in ensuring we have adequate power as we go into the future. That 1,500 megawatts will require support of about $4.3 billion.
Indeed, that has been business news. It is exactly 2 minutes to the half of the hour. You're watching the Daily Report right here on TV47, the home of untold stories. We are due for a short break, but when we come back, we have more on the other side of that break, including that conversation with Vimal Shah, who is already in the studio, as well as the political conversation a little bit later on. Please do stay with us and keep your feedback coming.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Taita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Taita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Past the hour. We thank you for staying with us. You're watching the Daily Report with me, George Maringa. Kelvin McCory is on sign language interpretation. We continue the news before the conversations I'd promised you about earlier on. Now, President William Ruto has continued his onslaught to those castigating him for fostering national unity, especially on matters castigating him for fostering the health insurance fund, the social health insurance SHA from the defunct NHIF. The president, during his tour of Taita Taveta counties, stated that the model is all-inclusive to all Kenyans devoid of their social status. Willie Dennis Njiru with this story.
Welcome, Your Excellency.
President William Ruto, while on the Taita Taveta backyard of Njukini, officially launched upgrading to bitumen standards of Taveta town roads. He lashed out at those pelting torrents on his health insurance schemes.
Hiyo bima sasa inamlazimu serikali ya Kenya. Inatulazimisha serikali ya Kenya. Kila Mkenya, bila ya kujali, ako na kazi ama hana kazi. Ako na uwezo ama hana uwezo. Kila Mkenya awe na bima ya afya. Wale ambao hawana uwezo wa kulipa, serikali ya Kenya itakulipia wewe.
The president said that it was benevolent gesture for his administration to factor in all Kenyans irrespective of social status in life as compared to the former health scheme.
Kazi yenu mpaka ni ngapi? Kujiandikisha. Na kujiandikisha ni bure. Sasa wewe mtu ya hapa Njukini, ukikosa kujiandikisha, alafu ukose bima ama ukose kutibiwa, makosa itakuwa ni ya nani?
The president issued a bounty of goodies to the Taita Taveta residents in a market and roads that will ease business transactions.
Hapa soko, county government ilijaribu pale nyuma, wakashindwa kidogo. Sasa mimi nimekuja kuwashikilia. So nimewapatia hapa shilingi milioni 10 ya kujenga hiyo soko yenu.
He also called out leaders who are spreading tribalism in the country.
Wale viongozi wote ambao wanaabudu sanamu ya ukabila, wao biashara yetu na sisi imekwisha. Ama namna gani jameni? Tunasema ya kwamba we want leaders who have the plan, who have the foresight, who have the interest, who have the passion to unite the people of Kenya.
Coastal leaders in attendance called on the president to live up to his promises that have derailed for long with no actions, adding that there was no room for tribal divisive politics in his administration.
Mambo yangu leo yalikuwa ya kuzungumza ni matatu tu hapa Njukini. Na jambo langu la kwanza lilikuwa ni hii barabara. Jambo langu la pili lilikuwa ni hii barabara. Jambo langu la tatu lilikuwa ni hii barabara.
So Mheshimiwa Rais, nataka nikuhakikishie haya yote ambayo yamesemwa hapa, sisi pia tumeandika. Mimi na ndugu yangu Mvurya na Kingi hapa tumeandika. Tukifika Nairobi tutakukumbusha. Mheshimiwa Rais, barabara ya Njukini.
Na mimi naungana na hawa wananchi, hii barabara hapa ni muhimu kwa sababu mbali na ile kiwanda ambayo tunaanzisha Manga, hii chakula nyingi iko hapa, tunaweza fanyia value addition.
For TV47, I'm Willie Dennis Njiru.
Thank you, Willie Dennis Njiru, for that report. Let's now speak to Vimal Shah, the KEPSA advisor, that is the Kenya Private Sector Alliance advisor and chairman, Bidco Africa, especially on matters the private sector achievements 20 years on. Vimal Shah, welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much for having me.
Indeed. How was your day today?
Excellent.
Excellent. Brilliant. And, 20 years is not a small feat, especially for KEPSA, if you look at it in the private sector in general. First of all, why is it important that, we look at this 20 years on? Of what significance does this 20 years mean?
I think it's important to look at the last 20 years because it's been the most transformative for private sector in Kenya. We've gone through 5 elections during the last 20 years period. And 2003, when we were sort of started off, it was the Kibaki era. And I think they wanted us to come together as private sector and speak at one level. And the transformation that the private sector has done and Kenya's robust private sector infrastructure has done has been amazing. So I think it is time to celebrate something that's been done well.
Yeah. There has been several milestones, of course, milestones over the 20 years. Could you, talk to us about the reflections on the achievements so far before you go to the downside of it? What are some of perhaps the key, notable achievements and milestones that you could think about?
So I think KEPSA as a body has overcome many challenges and really been able to bring together a lot of the private sector players. When it was formed, there were many associations at that time, and each association would talk to government very separately. So they were all siloed and they were talking independently. And there were companies also going directly to government and talking to them and lobbying for diverse interests. So if you're a trader, somebody's talking about how to reduce duties on trading products. If it was manufacturers, they would go and talk about themselves. And there was all that mixed emotion going to government. Now government would then not be able to decide, and that's when in 2003, when the Kibaki government said, look, organize yourselves, come together and be one voice as a private sector. And that's why KEPSA was born as a private sector voice to be able to bring them together. So you got all the chamber, you got your KM, Association Manufacturers, you got Law Society, you got everybody coming together, and they're all members of KEPSA. So as an apex body, you're able to talk at highest levels. And in the last 20 years, we've been able to have dialogue. Public-private dialogue has been very important. And I think we now have very organized systems. Back then, we used to have called the Presidential Roundtable. Now it's called the Presidential Dialogue, where the President chairs, an apex meeting. Then you got the ministerial stakeholder forums at every minister level. So we have teams of people in sectors who talk to every minister, cabinet secretary right now, in that way. We've also got the Council of Governors Roundtable, where we bring the council, all the governors, and talk to them as to what issues are there. Then we've got the Chief Justice Roundtable, and then we've got the Speakers Roundtable, which means you talk to Parliament. So all these bodies. So you got the 3 arms of government, and you talk to all of them and have dialogue because they need to know. You need to articulate. And KEPSA has been able to articulate all those issues, bring them to the fore, and talk to them. Now, this is not talking through the media and not talking through the press and trying to bash each other, but it's actually having the dialogue of understanding each other, understand what the private sector is looking at, understand what the government is looking at, and marrying those priorities. So I think that's been an achievement, and I think Kenya's private sector is probably a serious example in the rest of Africa, in the whole of Africa.
Okay, so looking at the challenges that were there in the initial beginning when KEPSA started in 2003, and now in 2024, 20 years on, when you look at the overcoming of these challenges, what has been the main drive, and what has perhaps enabled KEPSA to be able to, in all these different bodies, overcoming the economic turmoils as well, what has been the driving force to be able to overcome these challenges?
I think one of them has been very important, and that's keeping KEPSA private, which means it's not an institution where it's politicking. It's not a platform for politicians to use and then get up and springboard to other places. That's important. That's one of the things. Second thing was to bring the entire voice together and have a clearinghouse where you actually sort out. Within private sector, you have differing views, you have different ideas, and you remove all those conflicts of interest. You remove conflicting ideas and come up with one voice. In terms of marrying what's good for the government, what's good for the country, what's good for our people, and what's good for private sector, and marrying that together. And that was quite important. Otherwise, if two people, three people in private sector are fighting, they tell the government to do it differently, and the government will listen to one and not to the others. And that created a lot of disparity. So now it's organized, it's there, we have a voice, and it's not done in terms of fighting. So like I said earlier, we're looking at it from an organized point of view and understanding each other. Devolution happened during this period. The constitution changed, 2010, happened during this period. So 2003 to now, in 2010, we had this new constitution. In fact, the whole economic manifesto, KEPSA was very instrumental in putting out manifestos in every elections. And we have that manifesto where a lot of things are picked up by the parties, all the parties, not just one party, but all parties. And then, of course, we've had this whole discussion around peaceful elections. 2007, 2008, when we had an issue with post-election violence. Thereafter, KEPSA came up together and said, fine, let's do this in Kenya Daima. And Kenya Daima then brought out 3 more elections, and we've had peaceful coexistence of people to say, fine, understand where we're going. So all those issues, again, there's a foundation which looks after the whole social element of it, creating employment, including the Ajira program, which is now looking at digital enablers. So there's been a lot of new things that have come through. And also, I think it also becomes a house where all the new investors who come to Kenya would actually go and talk to KEPSA and say, fine, what do you think? What's the landscape like? So they get a feel of the place. And in that manner, it's been a clearinghouse for a lot of those people.
And talking about landscapes, Vimal, there is the issue of, the private sector companies, quote unquote, closing down. There's been that conversation. How is the lay of the land looking like, especially for the private sector, in terms of companies and businesses that have complained of the taxes, especially under this administration? How is it?
So I think if you talk about current, and if you talk about this current phase of last 1 or 2 years, I think we've taken a slow down in terms of we've taken a backseat from government side. And I think this is important to talk, and KEPSA is able to speak truth to power. And say, look, this is the reality. It's not about accusing or pointing fingers at each other. It's about bringing out issues. The issue of competitiveness is key. If we are going to be looking at the whole opportunity of East African community, we're going to look at the new opportunity for the TFTA, which has been signed and ratified. We've got the ACFTA, which is the African Continental Free Trade Area. I think it's going to be key that we have local value addition here in Africa, in Kenya. And with that, we need to make that competitive. And I think with what's happening in the scenario right now, it's become much more of taxation, whereby you are actually taxing and making us uncompetitive in Kenya. And therefore, we will still consume. Look, all our consumers in Kenya, every one of them, 55 or 60 million today, they will still consume. The question is, will they consume local product or will they consume products from outside, including services, not only goods, but also services. Will we produce locally or will we get it from outside? Same thing, competitiveness is the key. And what's the taxation that's coming on is taxing raw materials, it's taxing inputs, it's taxing labor, and therefore our cost of doing business, our cost of manufacturing is going up. And therefore our relative, and I talk about relative competitiveness with all our regional markets from East Africa is being eroded.
Okay.
And that's the key concern for a lot of people. Number two, our pockets are being invaded in a way, you know. Salaries are being invaded, and therefore you can see the salary shrinking. Now, if the only remedy or cure for that is increase the entire salary package, salary wage rate. So there's a wage price spiral. You increase that, you increase the costs. Cost of goods go up, again wages go up. So there's a spiral there, and we need to make sure we become competitive. That's a key challenge today, and I think this is where we need to talk, and we need to speak, and we need to be listened to as private sector, as KEPSA, to say this is what the reality is. It may be good for right now to say, oh, we collected a lot of tax, but in the long run, you're actually eroding competitiveness. Hence, you've seen a lot of the multinationals are actually saying, back up and move elsewhere. We've also got COMESA. I don't know if you know about COMESA, but COMESA and we got free trade area under COMESA today.
Okay.
East African community is a community, right? But the free trade area from Egypt is far more competitive today. So there you can get your products produced and bring it into Kenya duty-free, tax-free. Whereas we are taxing all our raw materials and inputs. And that's what uncompetitiveness is about.
So are the players that ought to listening to KEPSA and these concerns that you've raised? Is there a multifaceted approach in terms of trying to address these issues and these concerns?
Yes, there is dialogue going on. But I think there is a lot of willingness from government side too. But the actions are not there. I think this thing is right now, we need to curb this right now. And therefore, we need to speak to everyone, including Parliament. Right? We can't have a parliament that just says, put a tax here, put a levy here, and we'll milk the cow.
Yeah.
The cow will stop milking, will stop giving you any milk.
Okay, so then when you look at the future and how things are right now, do you think it is encouraging competitiveness and ideas, or are the Kenyan manufacturers, the Kenyan private sector saying, okay, we will hold and see how it goes, then we can either release or decide to be innovative, or we wait and see how things go forward? Is it a situation of, are we stagnant, are we progressing, are we stalling?
Well, it's called work in progress right now, because this dialogue is continuous. It's not like one-off, you talk and you get out of it. It's continuous. And right now the issue would be that we need to salvage the situation very quickly. Because if we let it go into 2025 and 2026, when companies have decided at the boardroom level to say, fine, no more, not manufacturing in Kenya, not doing anything in Kenya, and they go to neighboring countries or other places, we will still be sold to. We will still be a market. They'll still be trading with us. But the question is whether we're making it here or not. Value addition is a big thing. I think government's policy is clear. If you look at the manifestos and the policy, government's policy, we want to have local manufacturing, right? KM came out with a proposal to say we want 20% of GDP coming out from manufacturing locally, right? We want to have local jobs because we need to create more jobs locally. So the government's manifesto and its policy and philosophy is still for local value addition, right? It's for less taxing because we can pay our debts. The point is, if we keep taxing heavily and we lose jobs, the ultimate tax we collect will be lower. And therefore, widen the tax base, but make it lower, so it's affordable. And in that manner, same manner, the wages also will need to go up and the tax will be lesser. So that way you collect more. So I guess there's also one more thing. It's about making sure that everybody pays what is due. And that's where the whole issue will come of saying, are we seriously corrupt? Are we seriously not corrupt?
Not corrupt. As chairman of BIDCO Africa, of course, your company has grown in leaps and bounds. From a personal perspective, what are some of the insights that you can share, especially in the last 2 years, heading into the third year, especially under this administration, when you compare with the other previous administrations and governments?
I think the fact that there is a lot of local manufacturing happening here, we've got a lot of overcapacity in Kenya for a lot of manufacturing. Government needs to realize that there is local value addition happening here and there is local production happening here. We need to make sure we become competitive to the whole of East Africa, and then the TFTA, which is, TFTA includes SADC, COMESA, and ESC. And in that context, we need to make sure that we are competitive here. And then in the ACFTA, we need to make sure that we are competitive to sell to all of them. So therefore, the cost of doing business, the cost of everything else needs to come down, right? Government is a 30% shareholder of every single company. Talk about taxation. When you make profit, there's a 30% tax you have to pay. You can't avoid it. Except they're not a shareholder with you when you make losses, right?
Yeah.
But therefore, government needs to say, how do I make these companies become bigger, better? Small, medium enterprises, we have a big focus in KEPSA on the small MSMEs, right? To make them bigger. Right now, MSMEs are struggling, and therefore they can't even start up. For a startup industry in Kenya or a startup project, it takes you 300,000 shillings just to get licenses, right? They don't add value to the company, but they just have to get those licenses. We need to move away, and I think this is important for all the leaders and politicians to understand. We need to move away from a license Raj. License Raj means what the British gave us, that you keep people out of business, so therefore you keep licensing. And if you keep licensing every single person to say, fine, produce, what are you licensing? We're a free country. We got freedom 60 years ago, 61 years ago, and therefore we need to make sure that we don't get into this licensing possibility. Right now, everything needs a license. Licensing for what? Number one. Number two, we're digitizing. And I think that's amazing that we're digitizing the economy, but we got to, when you digitize something, right, you run a digital studio also.
Yes.
When you digitize something, the cost becomes near zero. An email doesn't cost you any money. Therefore, why should we be having taxing or charges on every single thing we do digitally? We should have no charges. We got to learn from a place like India, where they've got something called Digital Public Infrastructure, DPI. If you Google that, you find out they give you all these services free of cost.
Okay.
Right? Because digitally, it becomes free. Now it makes the small, medium enterprises so much more productive, so much more better off. And that's what we need to do here.
And we are a country that we are, of course, churning out young people. They're full of ideas. Vimal, does it mean then that they have no place to take these ideas because of all these issues that are currently ongoing?
I wouldn't say everything is lost.
Okay.
I think we've got amazing human capital, and I think they've got amazing ideas. We just need to nurture them. It's like planting a tree, right? You put a seedling there, you got to nurture it, you got to give the right fertilizer, and it's not lost yet. I think we can still do it, we can salvage it. The first thing is the will is there. In terms of the government, the country, the manifesto, the will is there. It's written out, right? All we need to now is align our actions towards the will to say, fine, now our actions are going to be pro-business, pro-improving local production or local ideas, whether it's digital or whatever, and really generate a lot more jobs. In fact, we can do wonders for the whole of East Africa. Okay.
Looking at the young people especially, because they're the ones who sent the questions earlier on regarding starting up something, and availability to capital has really been, and availability to credit has been a conversation that has been ongoing, and it's not very easy, especially with the current situation with banks. There's a lot that comes to being able to be given credit or capital to start off. What would be some of the other alternatives you would imagine in the current and modern day types of businesses post-COVID in the era of technology as well?
I think it's become a big issue of access to finance. And I think access to finance for a lot of young startups or small startups has been very difficult. It used to be like that in agriculture, where agriculture was seen as so risky that weather, climate, all that stuff, so agriculture never got funding. Now the startups are facing the same problem. And this is where we need to be unique in terms of how we get them to fund. Whether it's crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, or it's equity, right? We have to have new equity models where they can get funding. However, there's one more thing that our youngsters need to do is articulate their pitch in a much better manner. Articulate what they need, what they want. And I think it's establishing trust. So once trust is established, people will start saying, okay, I can do that too. I was speaking to the CEO of Stock Exchange here, and they can start doing that too, because a lot of people go to them and say, where do I put my money? And they put them in the number of limited stocks we have in the stock market. This could go to our youngsters, but it needs to become bankable. And those project proposals are still not fully bankable. And I think this is where we need to show them how to pitch, how to make it better, and give it out. There's a lot of young startups that are being given a lot of money by smaller people all across the world. Why not here, right? It can be done here. It can be incubated. But I think the articulation, I would say, from the startup side, they need to really articulate, have a customer there, see what the need is, and make it happen.
Okay.
If you talk to people who do, venture capital in America, angel funding is a startup, right? And they do startup funding. Out of 100 people they finance, probably 90 of them fail. 10 of them succeed and become like your WhatsApp or Facebook. And that's what happens ultimately. So that's where we need to really have an incentive for that. We don't have that incentive in Kenya.
So looking at, with the advent of global economic uncertainty sometimes and, inflation issues, we've seen the last year aggravated wars here and there, global tectonic plates are shifting. How can then the private sector alliance, KEPSA, and the private sector in general in Kenya adapt to this, having seen how things have been not only even in the last 3 years, perhaps even in the last 20 years?
I'd put it this way. I think Kenyan companies under KEPSA and all the 1 or 2 million businesses who are engaged with that are quite agile, are quite adaptable. And what we need to do is navigate the turf well. And that's where KEPSA comes in to say, fine, help you navigate the turf. Number one. Number two, we're in a VUCA world. VUCA is volatility, is the uncertainty is a given, right? Complexity is also given, and ambiguity is also given. In those territories of VUCA world, we've got to make sure we show them how to adjust their sails and still move forward. Whether you got headwinds or tailwinds, you still got to adjust your sails and therefore say, how do I become agile? And sometimes if you got a product that doesn't work, fail fast, but learn fast from it. And I think get onto it, because otherwise you sit with a paradigm that people will still come and buy from my shop or Duka, where they're now going to a device. You got to change. So you got to change and say morph into that. We can do that. It's not always doom and gloom that it's only taxation or it's only this or that. But I think the issue is about being innovative. And our people are quite innovative. However, again, around that area, I would urge government, we have no incentives for a lot of startups in digital space. We need to look at an incentive package. We can do that for them. We're going ahead and giving a lot of FDI, foreign direct investment, and we give them tax exemptions or this or that. Why not do it for our startups? In fact, get them to start saying they should have a 20 or 30 million shilling turnover, and thereafter you start taxing them. If we gave them that leeway and we say, fine, no licenses until you become a certain size, of course they got to comply with quality standards. But at the same time, if they came up, we'd have a seriously booming country.
Absolutely. Vimal, let's take a quick commercial break as we ruminate and think about what you're talking about, especially on KEPSA 20 years on. You're watching the Daily Report. When we come back, we conclude on that conversation, even as we look at what lies on the other side. Mheshimiwa Gigi Kagombe is also in the building. Do stay with us, much more coming your way.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Taita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Taita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side. We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair in the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, you're watching the Daily Report with me, George Maringa. We are still here with Vimal Shah, KEPSA advisor and chairman of Bidco Africa Group. Thank you so much, Vima, for staying with us.
Thank you.
Let's look at now the forecast. We've seen 20 years, how they have been. There have been a little shake-ups here and there, several speed bumps. Let's look at the future. Perhaps within the first 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, 20 years, how would you envision, being of course an expert and an experienced manager and chairman of Bidco Africa, what would be your prediction, or how would you look at the lay of the land in the next 1, 3, 5, 20 years to come?
I think Kenya is in an amazing position right now. We're in a fantastic position. Geostrategically, we're located in the right place. We've got a port. We've got a lot of people who are inland and hinterland. So location-wise, we're good. Trade-wise, we've got open markets. We've got access to markets in East African community. We've got access to markets in AGOA. Yeah. We've got access to markets in Europe under the EPA agreements. We've got the whole of EAC, COMESA and TFTA. Mm-hmm. We've also got access to AFC, African Continental Free Trade Area. Yeah. So ACFTA, when it comes to fruition in 2032, the point is, we've got a location, we've got a lot of groundwork. Last 20 years, I would say, our governments have done a fantastic job of laying a groundwork. We've got human capital that is second to none. We've got all the ingredients for really becoming far better than we are today. Mm-hmm. Right now, I would say, is a speed bump. We've got a speed bump that's slowing us down for a while to say, fine, just tax. I would rather say, let's remove the speed bumps. This is my appeal to every politician, everybody in parliament, everybody else, and say, fine, take the measure and say, anything we do now, any law we pass, are we making our product competitive or less competitive in the global arena, in the export markets? Mm-hmm. We've got 80% renewable energy coming out from for our power today. It's renewable energy, right? Why should it be costing us 20 US cents per kilowatt hour? Why can't it be cheaper? So that's all I'm saying is we've got to look at competitiveness in a big way. Mm-hmm. Number one. We are in a location that is good. We've got people who are there. Our systems are liberal. We've got a democracy that's working, right? And you can't say it's a wrong democracy. We've got freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. I think they're amazing. You're a press, right? In the press, you can say whatever you want when you won't be put in jail tomorrow. So I think the point is that we've got an amazing country. We've got an amazing situation. Mm-hmm. Let's make sure we actually capitalize on this and make it better, make it bigger. Mm-hmm. Number two, intentions of people are good. Everybody wants a prosperous nation. Everybody wants to create more jobs. Our human capital is good. Yes, our people can go elsewhere, become diaspora, but at the same time, we can create more jobs here. All we need to do is sort out the uncompetitiveness of people in Kenya. Mm-hmm. So stop taxing the pockets, look at it from a different angle, or get people to have more disposable income.
Indeed.
Right?
Yeah.
If your disposable income becomes better, you become a consumer. And when you consume more locally produced goods. Yeah. Agriculture itself, we can go to scientific agriculture, a lot more of precision agriculture, which will help our people in a big way. Mm. We've got that. 2/3 of our country is arid and semi-arid, as our lands, yeah? But we can convert that and say, fine, make better out of that. So overall, we've got a good position. Mm-hmm. What we've got to do is not let go. At the same time, we all must sit down, dialogue. I would say politicians, private sector, let's all dialogue. Mm-hmm. Let's discuss this matter in an open manner, not just to say it's my way or your way.
Okay.
Number two, let's deal with this corruption. When all the needs were being asked for, when Gen Zs were protesting, they were saying transparency. They were saying what? Accountability. Mm-hmm. They wanted everything to be open. Is there anything wrong with that? Does anybody see anything wrong with that? I think even our president agreed with them and said, fine, that's the right thing we need, right? We're all trying to fight corruption. Then let's make sure that action, which is missing right now, let's get that action there and say, fine, let's get that done. So I think in that sense, we have a position. We shouldn't let go. We're at 20, we're celebrating KEPSA. Yeah. But I think the next 20 should be the best time of our whole life, right? Because today you've got AI, AI is not artificial intelligence. Yeah. It's augmented intelligence because it's helping you a lot more. Yeah. Yes, some businesses will close down because they will become obsolete, but then be new businesses coming up. So we can rejig and repivot ourselves to become far better. Mm-hmm. So all I think is that we got an amazing position. Let's not let go of it. Let's all dialogue. Let's speak. Even if it's a bitter truth, say the bitter truth. This is the truth. We got to solve it. So nobody else is going to come and solve it for us because we're a sovereign nation, right? So we can't expect foreigners to come in and solve it for us. I would rather say, let's all engage. Let's talk to each other. Let's understand each other. Visit, go see the Gemba, go see where it's the action happening. And from that angle, let's just improve our place in a big way. And be able to be understanding, speak truth to power, and say the truth. Don't give this fake news. There's a big problem right now, and I can tell you one thing, and I would say the media is also responsible, not only this media, but social media. A lot of fake news is going around. Government's probably doing a lot of good things, but that's not getting publicized. What we look at is the negative stuff. Let's improve on that, and let's make sure we say the right things. And there's nothing wrong in saying the right thing rather than saying it in a twisted manner.
Okay. Indeed, what a way to wind up this conversation. Bimal Shah, thank you so much for speaking to us, our KEPS advisor, as well as chairman for Bidco Africa Group. Thank you for speaking to us. We look forward to, checking again in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, how the lay of the land looks like.
No, and keep up the good work. And I think I'd be saying that, as media, you are supposed to be responsible. Yeah. It's not about haki yetu now. It's about wajibu wetu.
Wajibu wetu.
So our responsibility is to make sure we be responsible and bring sanity. Thank you.
Asante sana. Brilliant. That's why we end up this conversation. Up next is sports news. Do stay with us.
Sports news brought to you by Maybets.
Let's get sporty. The Great Chepsaita Cross Country, in collaboration with Safaricom Foundation, have today held a medical camp for the community in a run-up to the Cross Country, which will be held on the 7th of December in Uasin Gishu County. The today's event saw over 5,000 locals turn up for the free medical checkup. And speaking in Chepsaita, the Great Chepsaita Cross Country patron Farouk Kibet has urged the government to bring medical facilities closer to the community, while Principal Secretary for State Department of Health Mary Muthoni has called upon the athletes to abstain from doping and drug abuse ahead of the cross country.
Leo hakika tunarudisha shukrani. Wacha tuseme ni asante kwa watu yetu ya pressure, hata mmekuja kusaidia siku ya leo. Tunashukuru hata Kibet Farouk vile ametuletea matibabu ya bure.
Neno kama haya sijawahi kuona. Hii ni karibu ya kwanza mimi tangu nisaliwe wakifanya kazi kama hii. Nimeona imekuwa na idara yote. Kwanza hata nimeenda kwa hii kujiandikisha kwa hii shark region.
Kiwao pressure iko sisi mingi sana, but watu wako na shida ya arthritis, na sana wazee ndio wamekuwa na shida challenges ya pressure na sukari, na kama Palm Care tumemanage kuwasaidia.
If you're planning to run on Saturday, do not take drugs. Do not, because that is embarrassing our country very much, and also it's detrimental to your health.
Naomba serikali iweze kuleta sanati karibu na wananchi. Moi referral ni mbali. Umeona hao watu wametembea kwa miguu, wamefikia matibabu ambaye wengi wetu tunaita matibabu ya bure. Sio bure vile inavyosema, ni matibabu ya kutibu wagonjwa.
After finishing 10th in the Dubai Rugby Sevens, the national Rugby Sevens team, Shujaa, has now shifted focus to the Cape Town Sevens leg. Shujaa will face Spain and Australia in Pool B as they look to build their momentum after they return to the HSBC Sevens series. In other pools, Fiji will face Great Britain and Uruguay in Pool A, Argentina face SA and Ireland, and New Zealand face France and USA in Pool D.
Having the new boys kwa team, of course, first game we got slightly unlucky. Second one, tukamatch South Africa, and the third one, haikugo our way. But I'm so proud kwa boys. Kwa lead, wame stood up by me, wakashow tukisimama pamoja tunaweza na kufollow 2-game structure.
We know we have to be clinical, especially on the restarts. We cannot play without the ball. So for us, that's an area that we're going to prioritize so much heading into Cape Town. Just restart with steep and kick accuracy, so that we can contest and get the ball back. That's an area we have to really prioritize. And also just how we finish our games. I think we start some games well, but towards the end, we don't really manage ourselves better. So it's just a little bit of pressure. How can we soak that pressure in? How can we absorb it? And how can we just close off games? So for me, it's very positive. 2 wins, 3 losses, not really what we wanted. But for us, it's important that we pick up the points that we can at the moment, because we know every point is important at this stage.
Kitu tunanid kupolish on ni our restarts. Hiyo ni kick-off na lineouts mostly. Na set plays zetu. Alafu game plan yetu tumeona inatubeba all day. So hizo ndio vitu tuna stick nazo.
Uganda's Robert Ocheng and Kenya's Regina Nyaga emerged the overall winners after scooping the men's and ladies' singles titles in the inaugural PDC Nakuru Darts Festival. This year's event has opened space for the technological scoring system, which will be used in all future professional darts corporations. Tournament coordinator Joseph Mwangi stated switching from manual to technological scoring system had improved morale of players from the preliminary to the final matches, appealing to Sports Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen to rate darts in the class of football and athletics. He said they have managed to take one player to the World Championships next year.
Leo nimeona watu wamecheza mchezo ya hali ya juu. Kulingana na michezo yote tushaicheza kuanzia hapa Nakuru na Kenya mzima. Kulingana na mimi leo nimeona watu wamejikaza zaidi juu kuna ile pesa imetegwa, kila mtu ako na hamu ya kupata hiyo pesa.
Huu mchezo wa leo umekuwa mchezo mzuri sana na mchezo wa kimataifa ambayo tunawakilisha nchi za Afrika Mashariki. Ni mchezo ambao umepitia fora na ni mchezo mzuri sana.
Today and yesterday we ran away from the manual balloting as well as manual counting. We are now using, or rather we are electronic or rather digital, and well, so far so good.
Caroline Muguku, playing off handicap 31, emerged as the overall winner at this year's Parklands Sports Club annual charity golf tournament after scoring an impressive 43 points in a highly competitive field. Joe Kisolo, playing off handicap 10, claimed the gross winner title with a score of 77 gross. In men's division, a handicap of 15 and below, Sof Eugene Ngige took the top spot with 38 points, followed by Kefa Bosire with 35 points and Abraham Samoy also with 35 points, finishing third on the countback. The lady division, a handicap 25 and below, saw Anesia Ibrahimova Merge victorious with 36 points ahead of Esther Ngige with 34 points and Jen Mwangi with 30 points. The tournament, held at the century-old Par 72 Vetlab Sports Club, brought together 144 golfers of all levels to compete while contributing to noble causes. Proceeds from the event will be distributed in kind to various homes and organizations identified by the club.
Hold annually to try and raise funds for the purpose of helping the less fortunate in our society. And we are very excited to have had 144 players who teed off.
I am happy to be part of the tournament, and I am happy to take part in this big initiative that was started by Parkland Sports Club. Once we make a child happy, once we make a less fortunate person happy, we will be happy as Parkland Sports Club.
It was a good game. I enjoyed myself on the course. I played with a solid 4-ball. The greens were fantastic. The course was playing fantastically well. The weather was amazing. We enjoyed ourselves. And we hope to see each and every one of us, hopefully, God willing, next year and in good strength. And I'm hoping that I'll be playing off handicap 12 next year.
It feels very good to be a winner for a very charitable cause, and I'm glad that they chose Vet Lab as a place to be. We hope to host them again next year, and anyone who wants to come and play can always join.
Sports news brought to you by Maybets.
Indeed, with sports done, time now for matters the Murima factor. We're joined now by Mheshimiwa Gigi Kagombe, Member of Parliament Gatundu South. Rhoda Nyamai still on sign language interpretation. Welcome to the show, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much.
How is the Murima? I mean, why is there are so many volcanoes? There's so many vents, eruptions coming along. What's up with the mountain?
First of all, let me acknowledge and give my salutations to the people of Murima. I was in Kirinyaga today, and I have listened to what the people are saying on the ground, and I think traditionally the Murima has been a very volatile place since the days of Mau Mau. There's never a moment of you know, you'll never be bored within Murima, because you know what we did in 1992, you know what we did in 2000, you know what we did in 2007, you know what we did in 2013, 2017, 2022. And Murima is a playground for proper siasa and proper politics. So what you're seeing is nothing unprecedented, is nothing unusual. And we have had our challenges, we've had our loved people, we have had our Kenyatta, loved by the Mama, we have had our Matibas, we have had our Rubias, we have had many people, we've had Uhuru as Gaitoga Wishialira, we have had now the current immediate former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, and the ball will continue playing, and we will continue rolling. And that's Murima for you.
That's Murima.
That's Murima for you.
How?
There's nothing unusual.
Yeah, there's nothing unusual.
We actually, you know, the other day I was just saying, you know, I'm member of Parliament number 9 in my constituency. Some of the people who are in politics, like member for, like Gengi Muigai, who became an MP in 1978, was re-elected in 1984, was kicked out in 1988 by Gakunju, and in 1992 he was kicked out. Gakunju was kicked out by Kamuiro. In 1997, Kamuiro was kicked out by Muhia. In 2002, Muhia was kicked out by Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta is the only guy who served 2 terms. Then after that, there was Jose, who passed on, and then Moses Kuria, and then myself. If you go to other places like Selu Nyanza, Orengo is still a politician. Orengo served with Gengi. Between Gengi and myself, there has been 7 other members of parliament. Orengo is still in power. He served with Oburu. He served with the... Think about, you know, when you look at our people in Murima, we do not wait, we do not keep our politicians and our leaders for long, because I think we have a lot of expectations that are not met by our leaders most of the time. And so the noise you're seeing is nothing unusual. We've just not thought about it properly. So if you think about it, you look at other places, look at Parliament. Go and look at people that sit on the other side. People like Dr. James Nyikal, people like, you know, old names, people who've been there for so long. But we have a very high turnover of leaders in Murima, and that is not news. It's not unusual.
Okay.
Yep.
When you look then at the situations that are happening, what do you make of it? How much of democracy and democratic space are we occupying in terms of how we are reacting, how that region is reacting to specific issues, and we'll get to the deeper context of it before we go for the break. But when you get to the deeper context of issues, the deputy president, the events you saw over the weekend, first of all, what do you make of that?
I think the volatility that is now experienced in Murima has been occasioned by, there's been a lot of fanning. And this didn't just begin. I think if you remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta last regime kept saying, wacheni siasa tufanye kazi, wacheni siasa tufanye kazi. And you realize that even after he exited the stage, we didn't stop politics. We just continued. And I think we have really found politics at the expense of development. If you ask me, I realize now the ground is not even asking for development. There's just politics that is happening. It's just, the story is not about which road is being done. The story is not about how much tea is going to pay us, or how much coffee is going to pay us, or how milk is going to pay us. The story is about politics. You know that thing. And I think we must be careful not to just do politics for the sake of it. You know, when I went to school, I was taught that politics is the art and science of division and distribution of resources. If you get so much entangled in the politics and you forget why you are in politics, because you're in politics to make sure that we get proper and commensurate allocation of our resources, and it is distributed within ourselves. That's why everybody wants to have one of their own in politics. But not just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
It's not just for me to sit there as a member of parliament for Gatundu South. It is what I'm able to advance for the people of that region.
Okay.
Are you able to advance a good cause so that you have proper resources allocated to them over time? And or are you just sitting there and whipping emotions and just being there for the sake of it?
Okay.
And I think, at times in politics we can fund this, and it becomes the usual thing to do every day, and then we forget completely that we're supposed to have been dealing with the development and allocation of resources.
Okay.
So I would say I would give a word of caution to our people that let's not forget why, in the first place, we wanted to have the seat of the deputy president. That's number one. And number two, it's not completely lost, because Kindiki is our child also, is our son, is the son of Murima also. And therefore, it's just Peter that has changed, and now that we have Paul, But even when we have Kindiki, are we advancing the issues of our Murima, or are we just doing politics?
All right. Let's hold on to that as we take a short break. When we come back, much more to dissect and debunk on matters Murima and all that surrounds it. Please do stay with us.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Indeed, welcome back. You're watching the Daily Report with me, George Maringa. We are still with Mheshimiwa JJ Kagombe, Member of Parliament for Gatundu South. You caught me just going through some of your feedback. Mheshimiwa, so Murima iliguswa?
Tuseme kulingana na wananchi ni kama mlima iliguswa. But what I would want to say is, who is Murima?
Who is Murima?
Murima is all of us. Murima is not an individual. Murima is is our collective interest. And if our collective interest is not being served by the people that we have put in positions that are supposed to serve our Murima, then we change. And I was just telling you the way our culture has been, that if you come from our constituency and we feel you're not serving our interest, then we change. So if you ask me, I think we have more pressing issues that are, Murima is a place where a lot of business happens. It's a place where farming happens. It's a place where we have so much need for government, policy, and laws. And therefore, what would amount to touching Murima to me is when you come to business, is when you come to agriculture, is when you come to our education, is when you come to the core things that affect, our milk, our tea, our coffee, those things that we do, our vegetables, our waru in Nyandarua, we even say cash crop yetu ni mawaru. When you touch those things and their markets, and when you touch the what we call the ability or the purchasing power of our clients, then you've touched Murima. These are things, I find them political, and I think right now there's some calm after the storm, and I think this calm after the storm is going to allow us to make business, because the business environment requires that we have less politics and more work going on. And that is what is happening currently. Okay. I am certain by the time you're coming back to Parliament in February, we shall have achieved almost a whole 100%, we shall have reconfigured. And our politics and our leadership will now concentrate on making sure that the policy that is required to entertain business and to allow business. You were just here with Vimal Shah, and he's one of the people who would be our off-taker for our, our corn, our sunflower, our soya, so that he expels that, and we are able to grow our economy. In 2022, we imported edible oil. Let me just pick something randomly. Edible oil alone, worth 98 billion Kenya shillings. We imported maize worth 47 billion shillings. We imported, not maize actually, sugar worth 47 billion. We imported maize worth 24 billion shillings. These are produce that can be produced within this country. And you know, we must get to a place as a country, not just Murima, as a country where we sit and say, now, guys, let's be serious. It cannot be bickering day in, day out. There's serious work that needs to be done. And how do we do this serious work? We need to employ our youth. How do we employ our youth? We need to have proper policy. Like now, I still stand by, you know, when the president failed to assent to act the bill, the finance bill of 2024, we were left in a situation where there was no cure for it. So we went back to 2023. But you see, our needs for 2024 are different. But we must get to a place where we call ourselves to a meeting and we be serious. You know, I would be afraid of a situation where we go a full cycle like other countries have. And we have examples all over surrounding us. We have seen countries that have gone the route that we are headed. We have seen countries that have started civil disobedience. We've seen, and they've gone a full cycle, and at times when they come back with so much sobriety that nobody would allow any other to joke around with the country's peace and country's development and anything that would allow us to flourish our country. So let me say this. We have politicized everything. You know, we have become a net importer. Mm-hmm. The reason why we are a net importer is because we do politics and we do not do any production. Okay. When we want to go and talk about, you know, stuff that, you know what, to me, touching Murima is, this year, we did not import any sugar. This year, we did not import, this fiscal year, we did not import even 1 grain of maize. Mm. We did not import even 1 grain of rice. Wheat. We are headed to a place where we now have 49 million bags of maize in our stores, worth about 117 billion if you are to use a conversion rate of 129, or if you are to use 2,500 shillings per bag, per 90 kg bag. Mm. And you know, well, you have, of course, the farmers want to fetch higher prices and the consumers want to buy at a lower cost and all those things. But my point is, can you imagine the amount of money that we're talking about, all those things that I've told you? If that money comes back to Kenya, you know, we're talking about imports worth more than 10 trillion shillings. Mm. Those imports and that money, that value that goes out is the value that is supposed to come here. Because what is ailing Kenyans, or why Kenyans are not happy, is not because of the politics. Mm. It's because of the economics of the country. Mm-hmm. But you see, if we go to politics to get a solution for our economics, then we won't find it. If you're sick, you have a cold, and you refuse to take medicine that will help you cure the cold, if you have plasmodium in your body, you must get something that will deal with the plasmodium in your body so the malaria can go away. Okay. If you have malaria and you decide now you're feeling uncomfortable and you go to swim in the river, you'll still be sick. So you must fix ourselves. You must understand that our issue is not politics. Mm-hmm. Our issue is our economics, and our economy is not working in our favor. Mm-hmm. So you must fix that, and that shall not be fixed politically. It shall be fixed by fiscal policy. And that is where we sit in Parliament to do fiscal policy. If we decide that we're going to the streets to do kelele na malumbano na siasa na hiyo maneno, we will still be where we were when we started this problem. And it doesn't matter. We can change these people as many times as you want. We can change our leaders as many times as you want, until we get to a place where we now address our real issues.
Which are, and looking at the economic situation in that part of the country, there is the feeling that hakuna pesa kwa mfuko. And the Kenya Kwanza government has admitted that that is a sector that has been quite on the frail. The macros seem to be doing well, but the micros and money in the pocket seems to be a problem. How do you then draw that balance for people that feel that they are getting, quote unquote, out of government?
The indications are correct, but you know, we have a skewed economy where 10% of the population hold 90% of the capital. Okay. So, and how does that happen? That happens because we have killed our local industry. Take milk, for instance. Mm-hmm. We have been importing milk. When you import milk, how many people import milk? A few people, 2-3 people. Mm. But if we're doing milk production in the country, then you'll get 10 million people producing milk and supplying to the economy. If you import maize, what happens? How many people can get the licenses to import maize? 2, 3, 10 people at
And these are the licenses
right?
that Vimalsha was talking about.
Yes.
There are too many.
Yes. You see, but you see, even forget the licenses. For me, it's not about the licenses. For me, it's that we're actually importing.
Okay.
Because why do we import? Because we have killed agriculture for the small scale holder. You get? So that is what happens. That we have a lot of money in very few hands, and this is what needs to be cured by having local production. If you have local production, for instance, when Vimalsha was here, if he's to import oil, he will import oil that could have been produced by 2 million people, but he will import alone. So he's the one who's going to be making the money. The rest are going to be spending. But if you allow sunflower people and our farmers to farm sunflower, soya and everything else, and then we expel here, then that money goes to those people. You understand? So the hit that the consumer or the regular mwananchi on the ground is feeling is because we have concentrated business, we have changed our business model to an importation country, and therefore that benefits very few people. I remember when some companies closed down business because of tax issues and because we're allowing cheaper diapers to come into the country. And I remember a friend of mine on Mombasa Road closing a company that used to do diapers and sanitary towels. He had, in his company, employed about 400 people. He decided now the tax regime is not very good in 2018. It is not favorable to us, so he closed his factory and went to importation in China. It means that these 400 people have lost their jobs, but he has kept his and his family and his wife, and and he has kept his. That is the problem. And the cure to that problem will be understanding the economics, the macroeconomics and the microeconomics of this country and fixing it. How do you fix it? You fix it through fiscal policy. But fiscal policy of government will not see the light of day because the people who are beneficiaries and who are profiteering from these importations are the ones who are now inciting the same mwananchi who is suffering and telling them that what is going to ail you is the finance bill, for instance, or are these laws that are spotting or are stopping importation, and therefore let's go against them. This government is not friendly to us. But when you look at these indicators, when you look at the dollar rate, why is the dollar rate now stable? Because we have reduced the demand for it. Why is the demand for the dollar low? Because we have reduced our need for importation. You understand? Why is our inflation rate at 2.7 for all the way from 9.6? Because the cost of the basic commodities has gone down. And why has it gone down? Because government has moved to subsidizing production. So that right now, you remember, we forget very easily. A few years back, we had people in the streets with sufurias on the head because it was a problem to even just have a meal. What? You remember that maandamano of sufuria and vijiko and sahani? I remember vividly seeing that thing happen. And it was real. The people who were on the streets were not joking. The people who were on the streets actually meant that they could not put food on the table. Right now, what are we talking about? Food is not a problem. We do not have a maandamano for food. Even the noise that you're hearing here, even in the media and social media and everywhere, food is not an issue. It's no longer an issue. That is how our inflation rate has come from 9.6 to 2.7. So it will take some time. But we must also fix the politics of it so that we agree that we must first of all identify our problem and realize that our problem is the economics. Our problem is not the politics. We understand that our problem is our economics is not working. It has been influenced over time. How did we get to a place where we're importing goods worth tens of trillions as a country in a year? Because you see, we have killed our industries for textile, we've killed our agricultural industries, we've killed our value addition industries, we've killed everything. And therefore, if you go to any room, go to your house today, George, look around in your house today before you sleep, when you get into the door, tell me anything on that environment that you think is made in Kenya. Tell me, from the curtain to the paint to everything, to the floor, to your clothes, to your shoes, to everything that you find in that house will be manufactured in another country. Meaning that there's someone who was employed gainfully manufacturing the suit that you're wearing. Meaning that there's someone who was employed gainfully and got money from us, from all those. And by the way, this is what is in all households. When I say that, you know what I mean. You will go into your room and look, even in this studio, look around, tell me anything that you think is made in Kenya. And then you tell me how we're supposed to create employment. And then you tell me how, if we do not create employment, how Kenyans are supposed to be happy.
So, and the juxtaposition of it is the whole issue of exporting labor while at it, and then the taxes that, of course, and the licenses that Vimal was talking about. There seems to be an unfriendly reception to ideas and to these situations. Why are you, even as Murima legislators, not coming so much to the table in as much as advocating? Because whereas you say we need to sort the politics, fine, there doesn't feel to be a consensus in terms of how the electorate wants you to handle these issues of taxes, which are core to their existence.
You know, by the way, and I say this with utmost respect, if you go to the hospital and you trust the doctor, and the doctor prescribes some medication for you, and looks at your condition and says, this is where you're supposed to go. You take that and you believe it. What happened in our country, and not just in Murima now, is that the people who are supposed to give us solutions, because we elect people because they have, first of all, capabilities, they know better than we do, because they have a bigger view of things, and they're supposed to make proper decisions for us. And we're supposed to be comfortable that they are going to make decisions for us. What has happened in this country is that we have lost that faith. So even when a proper decision is being made, you're skeptical. You know, the public is skeptical. They're like, do you have our interests at heart?
Maybe the trust deficit is coming from a point of, it seems to have been eroded over time.
It's not immediate. This is something that has been coming over time. I mean, we have come a long way. We're talking about 40, 50, 60 years of it coming. And that's why I'm saying maybe probably as a country we'll go a full circle and come to say, okay, now this is where we went wrong. This is where the rain started beating us. And now we need to go back to basics. And then we go and correct what went wrong. Because if when it gets to a point, I ask myself, why would Kenyans not trust the people they elected 2 years ago? And at that time, they're the ones who participated in the elections. Because this is not just about the 13th Parliament. This is not just about this administration. We had a problem in the last administration, do you remember? Remember that same Murima told Uhuru to finish and go. Maliza uende. We were here telling Moi must go. Yote yawezekana bila Moi.
Unbogable.
We said we were unbogable. We have been doing these things over time. So is it that we have a trust deficit, or is it that we have leaders who do not care for the common mwananchi? And if you ask me, if I look at my predecessors, I've told you I'm number 9. None of those people has been removed from position because of death. They have all been kicked out by the electorate, except Jomo Kenyatta and Jose, except 2. 7 of them have contested for their seat and been kicked out. So I keep asking, what is this that happens that we have? Why are these mistakes that we make every time that we have made for 7 times consecutively? That every time you're like, apana, hapo tulifanya makosa, wacha tuondoe huyu tuweke huyu mwingine. What is that thing? Until we identify what that thing is, then we will still be caught in this in this melee, and we are unlikely to progress as a country. Because for us to progress as a country, we must have some faith in our systems, and that faith must be established one way or another. Whether we are going to have a national dialogue and say, now this is where we are supposed to go, or this is how we are supposed to be electing our peoples, or this is how we shall have our representation, we will need to have trust in our government institution. Let me tell you, I was in Azerbaijan earlier this month. And you realize in other countries like those ones, anything that is associated with government, they are afraid of you if you're private sector and you're not associated with government. What happens in Kenya? If you hear anything is government, you want to run away. You don't want to be associated.
I mean, when they are pending bills worth billions, of course.
Yeah, I'm saying. And you know these pending bills, how old are the pending bills? We have pending bills for over 10 years. Pending bills at NYS, pending bills at Kengen, pending bills at Kenya Power, pending bills in the ministry, whatever, counties, everywhere. We have pending bills that are as old as 10, 15 years. So what I'm saying, it is not just unique to this government. Actually, this government is really trying to get out of the hole by paying these pending bills. But when did we come? Actually, do you know, George, growing up, there's something that we used to call the yellow paper. If you got, a few years back, even during Moi's days, if you got that yellow paper, what you call an LPU, a government LPU, you would present it to the bank and they would fund your business. Right now, even Shylocks will not take it. We have eroded the faith that we had in the government institutions. That is something that will be very critical. And you see, that goes side by side with patriotism of this country.
Okay.
You find that the people we are the people who fight our institutions, or we are the people who have made our institutions untrustable. We have eroded the trust that people should have had in our government institutions. And I'll tell you this, you know, a lot of these people that we do business with here, like a lot of Chinese companies that you find here, are government owned. And everything that is government owned gives people comfort. But in our country, everything that has any relationship with government is something that you want to run away from. That must be fixed one way or another. Murima or no Murima. Kenya Kwanza administration or no Kenya Kwanza administration. So that thing will have to be fixed because we have a country, we have a population, we have a generation, and we have a future that we must look out for.
Are you legislators, especially Murima legislators, afraid of your debut, of your return back to the August House after this cycle, going by how things are, going by how Murima is behaving?
I don't think, I am not much concerned about that. I am more concerned about doing the right thing. I mean, I would not live my next 3 years worrying about whether I will be re-elected or not. I would worry, and my question would be, is my conscience clear? Did I do the right thing for the people? Did I do by the people what I would have wanted done by me, by whoever else would have been in that position? And that is my concern. My conscience must be clear about my service to the people and my patriotism and my loyalty to the people that I serve. That is what worries me.
That's what worries you. Looking at then now the future, talk to us from, if you could be as objective as you could, in terms of the future. We've spoken about, to Vimashal earlier on matters entrepreneurship and businesses. From a political angle, the president had lamented he felt like a lone voice in the executive. Do you think, one, that has been resolved? And two, do you think then that with time there will be a situation where this government will be embraced by the people, by the electorate that they voted, that voted for them?
First of all, I must say what the president said is true, and I feel that the government has not been able to communicate its achievements and its service to the people. I feel that we have completely failed. The executive has failed completely in communicating what they have been doing. That's number one.
Okay.
Because if the government would effectively communicate what it has been able to achieve in the last 2 years, the noise and the dissatisfaction of the people would be a lot less than it is right now. I mean, if probably you've not thought about it, Maringa, that we have, just by fertilizer subsidy, we have reduced importation by less than 200 million, you know? Just by, I told you, for the last maybe 20 years, 21 years, we have been on a trajectory of, an upward trajectory of deficit in the balance of payment, coming from 0.89 in 1999 all the way to 10.55 billion in the year 2022. It is only in 2023 that managed to go down. If the government would communicate that and communicate it effectively, then when the president manages to do that, then he will be embraced by the people. But he has to do it. He has to gain the trust and the love of the people by just saying what he's been able to do and what his intention has been and what he's been able to achieve.
Okay. Indeed. Thank you so much. What a way to wind up the conversation tonight with the Honorable Gigi Kagomba, Member of Parliament, Gatundu South. Thank you so much for watching. My name is George Maringa. On Sign Language has been Rhoda Nyamai. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another. Let's meet tomorrow, same place, same time, for another invigorating conversation, especially even as you look at matters, GBV, and ending all that. We will have Kikao tomorrow. Please do stand by for that and much more right here on TV47, the home of untold stories. Good night from Nairobi.